welcome to another edition of Hard Copy, the program where we bring you the people behind the news. Tonight, my guest is Balarabe Musa, a former governor of Kaduna State in Nigeria's Second Republic. Although much advanced in years now, Alhaji Musa prefers to be referred to as an activist, as he continues to be a vocal critic of the state of affairs in today's Nigeria. He spoke to me on a number of issues, including the proscription of the Shiite IMN group by the Kaduna state government, the seeming schism between northern and southern Kaduna, and President Obasanjo's speech. Now, in spite of all that seems not so well, Alhaji Musa remains an optimist, believing that things will change for the better. When I asked him what continues to give him cause to hope, despite his age and experience, this was his response.
Because things are always changed by the people who suffer from these problems. They always change them. Things never remain the same. Changes take place all the time.
Let's bring matters home now.
Yeah.
You are resident here in Kaduna, and
Yes.
I'm sure that you've observed, quite a number of things happening in Kaduna, perhaps some of them good and some of them not so good. Only in recent times, and I want to focus more on the security situation in this state. Only in recent times, we've seen the current governor of the state, Nasir El-Rufai, prescribe the IMN group, mostly comprised of Shiites. He says that, they're becoming a threat to the peace and security of the state. Do you agree with him?
So many threats to the security of the country exist. So many of them, countless. I don't think the Shiites are a threat to the security of the country because they don't carry arms. They propagate a change of system. Now, they are just like any other organization. But the time they take up arms without provocation, then you can say they are a threat to the country, a threat to security. They may be uncomfortable to the leadership of the country, yes, but I don't think they are such a threat.
Well, he prescribed them recently on the back of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, which is set up to probe the clashes between the sect and the military. I'm sure you're aware of those clashes.
Yes.
And the Judicial Commission of Inquiry recently came out with these reports. Now, one of the things they found out was that the IMN was not a registered organization. And on the back of that, the government of Kaduna, let me quickly read some parts of that. They noted the regrettable events in Zaria, which resulted in the loss of 347 lives. And they say the IMN has overtly continued with unlawful processions, obstruction of public highways, unauthorized occupation of public facilities, including schools, without regard to the rights of other citizens and the public peace and order of the state. That's according to the Kaduna State government.
Yeah. In the first place, who established the committee? That's one. Who is a partner in this conflict? The government. So you have a problem there.
But
I'm not saying that they were not inconvenient. Certainly, they were inconvenient. But there is provision in the Constitution of Nigeria for fundamental human rights. Have they breached that? Exactly, have they breached that? This is the question.
You have been governor of this state. I mean, if you were confronted with a situation like this, where a group of people, first of all, we saw how they refused passage to the Chief of Army Staff. In fact, the government of the day alleges that they do not respect the Constitution and that they did not even recognize him as governor, and they do not recognize the president as their president. He says they do not recognize the Constitution of the country.
Yes.
This is a charge that the IMN group, deny. But then, it would seem that in the other way, this is what the state government alleges.
First of
this is the reason why they prescribe.
First of all, don't let me to talk in defense of the movement. I'm talking in defense of the legal system and the fundamental provision of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which ensured fundamental human rights and freedom of expression. I'm also talking about the failure of government to exercise care and caution as expected of it, even when there is provocation, and also to take action which is a deterrent, not beyond deterrence.
How would what kind of action would you describe?
First of all, I don't want to go too far, because I don't want to appear to be defending the movement. I'm defending humanity, human rights.
It's a very thin line. That's the reason I ask that.
Yes.
It's a very thin line
in
upholding fairness.
Yes.
What do you think would have been fair?
What I would think would have been fair is not to go beyond the limit of humanity. That's one. Secondly, do what others did, because others were confronted like this by others that feel aggrieved, and they handle it in different ways without causing loss of life and without going beyond what was expected in a human society. I think there is a history of even the emir of Zaria, and the military convoy, whatever you can call it, was only going to visit the emir and was confronted with this. Now, even the emir himself, I think on at least one occasion, was confronted by this problem, and he diverted his way and avoided the clash. Now, in the case of the this military convoy or whatever it is, they were confronted. Obviously, the confrontation was wrong. But instead of diverting their way to avoid the confrontation, they went to use arms straight. That's one. Secondly, instead of doing what they ought to do at that spot and go, which they did, and I think it led to the loss of 8 people. After that, few hours after that, they went and pursued the adversary from house to house and so on and so on. Hours after that, and destroyed so many property. This is overreacting, which is not expected of a civilian government, not expected even of any government that has sense of respect for humanity. Government is supposed to exercise great care and caution even when they are provoked.
Now, I'm just a little, this is on the one hand, the one security situation. On the second hand, there's also been another situation that the governor of the state has expressed worry on. In fact, he admits that his state, it would seem at some point, is divided into north and south, northern Kaduna and southern Kaduna, which, tend to clash very often, sometimes on the basis of religion.
Yes.
Is this something that has also given you cause for worry? And
yes, it has.
What would you say would be the way forward?
It gave me cause for worry. And I dealt with it when I was the governor of the state. I had problem with this tribal conflict between the north and south. I have also problem with religious bodies, in particular the one they call Tariqa and Izala. I had problem with them, but I handled the problem by discussing with the leaders and so on. I started discussing with them even before it reached the stage of confrontation and solved the problem.
Why do you think this problem persists in Kaduna?
Well, because of the nature of Kaduna. That's why. Kaduna is cosmopolitan. Just like so many parts of Nigeria, Kaduna is made up of different ethnic entities with different background and different experiences. And then there is another third factor. Whoever wants to destabilize Nigeria will have to start it from some particular places. Kaduna for a very long time has been one of the targets for destabilizing Nigeria for whatever purpose, but particularly for political purpose. It is an unfortunate situation, but it should be dealt with.
Do you think that the law, the religious bill law, will be able to help manage the crisis?
No, I'm not going through the bill. But I've had some reports about the contents of the bill. It aimed at restricting religious activities. This is very difficult in Nigeria. In Nigeria, religion is very, very important. And it is a source of, the religious differences is a sort of problem in Nigeria. And whatever law is contemplated about religion in Nigeria, the law has to look into the reality on the ground, which means that necessary care and caution should be exercised.
So what do you think is responsible for this cattle rustling on the one hand and then the clashes between farmers and herdsmen on the other hand?
Now, clashes between farmers and herdsmen takes place all the time because of the nature of the herdsman's business, rearing cattle. No matter what you do, unless you exercise great care and caution, there will be conflict between herdsmen and the farmers. Farmers wanted to sustain, to keep their crops, and the herdsmen wanted to feed their animals. Care and caution must be exercised. But in a situation like in Nigeria, where the rule of law is very limited, you can expect this sort of thing. In the case of cattle rustling, I think there are two factors. The atmosphere in the country is an atmosphere of stealing. Steal and get rich. That is the atmosphere. So this is not unexpected in a situation like this. Any group of thieves can gather together and steal anything. This is the situation. But in the case of this, there is also another social factor. The level of poverty among the Fulanis and the existence of abundant wealth in the country. I think the Fulani as a social group are one of the few who are suffering most from the level of poverty in this country. This is for sociologists to examine and report on. But I know from my experience all the years, and I also know from my activity as a farmer who has daily contact with the herdsman.